Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. I am Mona Duncan, and it is a delight to have you here. It is Greet the Week is where we look at always living in the now, because this is the only moment that is at our disposal, and then also seeing that all of life's frustrations and difficulties are lessons for us to learn. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about organizing, and this is part 3 of lesson 3 of being organized. And Alice, it's a delight to have you here.
Thank you.
And going to go ahead and bring this up full scale. Let's get organized. So it's part 3 of 3, and this portion is in managing the averse. What does it mean to be averse? Well, it's to be opposed to be unenthusiastic, to be hesitant, to decline, be unwilling, and maybe even sometimes to be hostile to something. And so it's looking at the fact that whether it is a coworker, whether it is someone that is born into our family, or whether it is someone that we're married to, there are those things of organizing and getting together and collaborating that can have some tension in it. So here's a little cartoon I thought was very appropriate, that this is not organization. And the lady is saying, oh, I am not disorganized. I know exactly where everything is. The newer stuff is on top and the older stuff is on the bottom. But that doesn't lend anything to being easy to find and get to. So it's looking at there's all kinds of ironies in life. I still do, but in the past did a whole lot more than I do now, do public speaking for people. And I was doing a session on organization and time management and that stuff. And I had a lady come up and ask me, well, how in the world do you live peaceably with a slob? And it's not only were they, living together, but they also were running a business together, and was just quite frustrated. So I got to thinking about, the Felix Unger and the Oscar Madison from a long time ago. It can be difficult, and following are a few thoughts that may contribute to harmony. Because the thing of it is that we are very creative, and we invite chaos wherever we are unwilling to see that a needed lesson. We need to learn a lesson, and it's ready there to be learned. So I have some thoughts, about 6 or 7 thoughts on this. One is to state your frustration. Don't stuff it. Rather than stuff your frustration, state it in a positive manner and from a position of a can-do, and always with a pleasant attitude. And in making that statement, you always want to use I comments rather than you, what you do. And sometimes we can point that finger and it's like a gun going off, and it can become a weapon. So use the I statements. So this is what I say. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm wondering. And focus on things that can be changed, things that are more obvious. Always be careful of doing stack attacks. Sometimes we'll put something back and we'll push it back and push it back and won't address it until we're just exploding with it. So we want to not do that. We want to not stuff it, because then it becomes more frustrating. And then have a resolved suggestion in mind before you complain. Don't just go there with the complaint and then just kind of drop it and nothing has been solved. So another point is to ask for change without demanding change, because demand in and of itself just engenders defensiveness, whereas asking is definitely more, has an attitude of more cooperation and seeking information. And then in whatever change you're asking for, be specific with it. Think about it so that you can really be specific and just having a bunch of generalized thoughts flowing out. And do not beat around the bush, and do not give hints, because, we're always thinking, well, why can't, maybe we think someone's reading our mind, but they're not. So don't beat around the bush, say what you need to say. Openly communicate in a way that hopefully the person that you're talking with can understand. And if not, ask them some questions, so that they could, so that you could be more communicative and getting your point across. And even though you may have a resolve in mind, we need to always know that we cannot control another person's ambition nor their lack thereof. So in the process, we want to assess the situation. Is the mess a character flaw, or is it a lack of resources? Is there a need for file cabinets, or maybe for some storage bins? It's amazing how things can really change and run more smoothly whenever there's more places and more organizational things. Could a closet be added? In tight quarters, as we begin to utilize the wall and put shelves up, so that up over the existing furniture. Has the time come to move to a larger space, whether that's in home or family, or whether that's in business? And do you need to hire office assistants, or to get some cleaning help, or some organizational help? And then also, it's looking at making suggestions on how to eliminate, how to simplify, and how to be neat. Some people have an knack for organization and others do not. So rather than berate their weaknesses, offer non-threatening ideas. To eliminate, maybe we need to box it up, stack it neatly, put it in drawers behind the cabinet door, throw it away, give it away, recycle it. To delegate. Well, to delegate is pretty much to give away, to ask for help, to hire some resources, or to look at some outside sources as to, I know some people have, rather than getting rid of the stuff, either selling it or giving it to someone else, they'll put it in a U-Haul type thing and pay money for it and forget all about what's in there. And, adding to not only disorganization, but also financial resources. So begin to simplify by assessing how much time a particular activity takes, and then see how you can pare it down to make it more simple. And then offer to help the person that may not be the tidiest, and see if there could be any it's always remembering that everything needs a home. And if we take it out and use it, but then put it back in its home so that we always know where it is. For example, your keys, that you always have a place to put your keys when you are no longer using them, so that you don't lose them frequently. So if everything doesn't have a home, otherwise it is a visual as well as an emotional and a mental clutter that we're trying to wade through. So I had this frustrated wife with a messy family that wanted me to come over and help. So the first thing we did was we began to look at assessing the situation. And then we did a little shopping trip. We went out and bought some baskets as we had assessed what, may be more profitable. Then we looked at some things to make it more organizational, got some different items. So, and then going back to actually make things more reasonable in organizing, we gave specific labels and places and placed in specific locations. For example, we had a large basket and we put it by the den door, and then we also added some coat hangers and some hooks, and that became the home for sports equipment, rather than just dropping it off here and there and taking it somewhere else. We also took some small baskets and put them on the kitchen counter and labeled them: mail, coupons, pens, keys, pocket change, so that you know right where to put something. And then when you needed it, you could go back to it. We also took a basket and baskets and put them on the fireplace. And in each basket, we put the child's name. And then as the room became cluttered with shoes or books or toys or wayward items, they were temporarily placed in the child's box for the child to pick it up and to return it to their room or to the original home for that particular item. And then I found it so interesting. I saw this lady again at another time at another meeting, and she said that her husband made the comment to her, said, "I'm so glad you did all of this. All of that junk was making me nervous." The thing of it is that she said that he was equally a contributor to making things cluttered and disorganized, but that he was very cooperative in working with it. So, but what if someone is not willing to cooperate? Well, first we need to assess our own options. Is the mess unbearable, or is it just not up to your particular standards? Is the disorderly situation new, or have you failed to set any boundaries and now you've had your fill and you're kind of ready to just spout it all out? What is more important, the neatness, the efficiency, or the relationship? And it can be a both and. And then, is the clutter contributing to what? To stress, to lost sales, to frustration, to stress. And then secondly, we need to assess the locus of control. Being pleasant in a difficult situation is more about you than it is about them. And so I think of the little Catholic prayer: for the sake of your passion, grant us grace. And what is grace? Well, grace is being gracious, and maybe kind of has a linkage to that undeserved leniency, being kind whenever someone maybe has even become rather hostile. And kind of looking at an aside, in being a peacemaker, sometimes means making waves, as in trying to be a peacemaker into making everyone happy just does not work. And sometimes the waters need to be roiled, needs to be stirred up so that things can be calmed back down and making waves. So we want to overcome negative situations rather than the stress of just going through. So based on choice theory, and looking at the fact that we choose the emotions that we experience. You say, "Oh, I did not choose to be angry. I did not choose to be frustrated. I did not choose to be hostile." But when we get real honest with ourselves, maybe we were making that more of a choice than we're willing to admit. So knowing that we choose the emotions we experience, and we experience emotions, the way they get inside us is through the thoughts we think. And so sometimes we need to just look at what those thoughts are. So to change our emotions, begin to change our thoughts. And looking at Dr. William Glasser's behavior card, and not only looking at it from the part of the old-timey cars, the Henry Ford cars, that the front wheels led and the back wheels followed. The more I think, I have not driven an electric car, but the more I think about it, I know the electric cars do have all four wheels working in tandem, but I'm thinking that maybe the same connection applies to the newer makes as well as the older makes, in that the front wheels of a car point in the direction we travel. And we are the one that turn the steering wheel to decide which direction we're going in, or whether it's just to keep us on an even path. So those front wheels of a car point in the direction we travel. And those back wheels automatically and dutifully follow. So too, our emotions are hardwired to our thoughts. So change your mind and change your emotions. allow peace to reign, agree it is a deal, but assess, does it have to be a deal breaker? And sometimes it's not necessary for it to be a deal breaker as we begin to not stuff it, but to speak up and to cooperate. So, think you can do it? Well, I think you can. So I'm going to thank you for being here and close the airways. And we'll open up for dialogue. So thanks for being here. And how do I get out of this thing? Well, I can't find the stop button. Oh, there it is. I'm going to stop share. And then